It began with cruel laughter echoing through the gymnasium and two 17-year-old twin sisters standing alone by the punch bowl, clutching homemade dresses their single father had sewn by hand. When the popular kids approached them with fake smiles and asked them to dance for entertainment, nobody expected what would happen next. Least of all, Sebastian Walker, the quiet janitor who'd been watching from the shadows, carrying secrets of a dance career that ended in heartbreak 20 years ago. What no one could have predicted was that these same girls, once mocked for their awkward movements and thrift store shoes, would soon command the entire prom with nothing but raw passion, determination, and a man who remembered what it meant to move with purpose. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Oakmont High School gymnasium had been transformed into what the prom committee called a night under the stars. But to Hazel Cooper and Iris Bell, it felt more like standing under a microscope. Silver streamers cascaded from the ceiling like frozen tears, and twinkling lights created an artificial galaxy above hundreds of teenagers who belonged to a world the twins had never been invited to join. Hazel adjusted the collar of her navy blue dress for the 100th time, the fabric soft but clearly handmade. Every stitch had been sewn with love by their father, Tobias Nelson, who'd spent weeks watching YouTube tutorials after his shift at the Pinewood Electronics factory, his calloused fingers learning to navigate delicate fabrics the same way he'd once learned to wire circuit boards. The dress fit perfectly, but perfection couldn't hide the fact that it hadn't come from Nordstrom or Macy's like the gowns swirling around them. Iris stood beside her sister, unconsciously mirroring her posture. Shoulders slightly hunched, hands clasped in front, eyes scanning the crowd for familiar faces that might offer a moment of refuge. Her emerald green dress, also crafted by their father's determined hands, caught the light beautifully, but she might as well have been invisible for all the attention it garnered from their classmates. The twins had inherited their father's height and strong build, standing nearly 5'9" each, with the kind of natural grace that comes from years of helping stock shelves at the family's small convenience store and carrying heavy boxes without complaint. But grace in a stockroom translated poorly to the social choreography of high school, where every gesture was scrutinized and every outfit became a statement about your family's financial status. "Maybe we should go," Iris whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding bass of the DJ's latest selection. "Dad's probably wondering if we made it okay." Hazel shook her head, though her resolve was wavering. They'd promised each other they would stay for at least 2 hours. 2 hours to prove to themselves and their classmates that they belonged here, that they could exist in the same space as the kids who drove BMWs and spent spring break in Cancun. 2 hours to make memories that didn't involve inventory counts and discount coupons. "We paid for tickets," Hazel said, though the $60 had come from 3 weeks of saving every tip from the weekend farmers market where they sold their father's homemade preserves. "We're staying." The gymnasium was divided into invisible territories, as clearly marked as any battlefield. The popular seniors claimed the area near the stage, where their designer gowns created a kaleidoscope of expensive fabrics and professional hairstyling. The athletes had commandeered the space near the basketball hoops, their rented tuxedos stretched across broad shoulders, built by years of protein shakes and weight training. The academic elite clustered near the refreshment table, engaging in the kind of intellectual discourse that would look impressive on college applications. And then there were the spaces in between, the neutral zones where kids like Hazel and Iris could exist without drawing too much attention to themselves. They'd found refuge near the punch bowl, a strategic location that provided both refreshment and an escape route should the evening become unbearable. From across the room, Sebastian Walker pushed his maintenance cart along the far wall, his movements methodical and almost invisible to the celebrating teenagers. At 45, he'd perfected the art of blending into backgrounds, of completing his duties without disrupting the lives of people who barely acknowledged his existence. His grey coveralls marked him as staff, someone whose presence was necessary, but unremarkable. But Sebastian's eyes missed nothing. 23 years of working at Oakmont High had taught him to read the social dynamics that played out in these hallways with the precision of a choreographer studying movement. He could identify the bullies before they struck, spot the lonely kids before they retreated, and recognize authentic kindness in a sea of performative teenage behavior. Tonight, his attention kept drifting to the two girls by the punch bowl. He'd watched them grow up in these halls, had seen them navigate 4 years of high school with a quiet dignity that impressed him more than any academic achievement or athletic victory. They reminded him of himself at that age. Tall, awkward, existing on the periphery of a world that seemed to operate by rules no one had bothered to explain. The twins didn't know that Sebastian had been watching over them in small ways for years. He was the one who made sure the broken locker next to theirs got fixed quickly, who ensured the bathroom they used most often always had soap and paper towels, who sometimes left encouraging notes in their lockers during particularly difficult weeks. Never signed, never acknowledged, just small acts of kindness from someone who understood what it felt like to be overlooked. As the evening progressed, Sebastian noticed the way other students' eyes would slide past the twins, the polite but distant smiles when they attempted conversation, the subtle but unmistakable exclusion from group photos and shared moments. It was a dance he'd seen performed countless times, the careful choreography of teenage social hierarchy playing out with brutal precision. The punch bowl became their island of safety, but Sebastian could see the isolation taking its toll. Hazel's smile grew more forced with each passing minute, while Iris had begun checking her phone repeatedly, perhaps hoping for a legitimate excuse to leave early. The music shifted to a slow ballad, and couples began to form on the dance floor like magnets, finding their match. Hazel and Iris watched from their position by the punch bowl as their classmates paired off in an elaborate ritual of teenage romance and social positioning. The twins had never been asked to dance, not at homecoming, not at winter formal, and certainly not at any of the casual school events where such invitations might naturally occur. It wasn't that they were unattractive. Both girls had inherited their father's strong jawline and their late mother's expressive brown eyes. Hazel's hair fell in natural waves to her shoulders, while Iris kept hers shorter, framing her face in a way that highlighted her quick smile. But attractiveness operated differently in the ecosystem of Oakmont High, where social currency was measured in brand names, vacation destinations, and the right kind of casual confidence that came from never having to worry about whether your family could afford new clothes for the school year. The twins had learned early that they existed in a different category entirely. They were the scholarship kids. Though they'd never actually received scholarships, they were the ones who brought bag lunches while others bought cafeteria meals or drove off campus for fast food. They were polite, hardworking, and invisible, the kind of students teachers appreciated but rarely remembered after graduation. Tobias Nelson had done his best to shield his daughters from the weight of their circumstances. After their mother, Genevieve Perry, had died in a car accident when the twins were 12, he'd thrown himself into the role of both parents with the determination of a man who refused to let tragedy define his family's future. He worked double shifts when necessary, learned to braid hair by watching online tutorials, and somehow managed to attend every parent-teacher conference despite his demanding schedule at the electronics factory. But there were things money couldn't buy and things a father's love couldn't protect against. The subtle exclusions, the birthday parties they weren't invited to, the group projects where they were always the last ones chosen, the casual conversations about family vacations and shopping trips that reminded them daily of the distance between their reality and their classmates' expectations. Tonight was supposed to be different. The twins had saved for months to buy their prom tickets, had spent weeks planning their hair and makeup, had even splurged on new shoes, modest heels from a discount store but new nonetheless. Their father had surprised them by taking time off work to drive them to the dance, his eyes bright with pride as he took photos in their living room. The handmade corsages he'd crafted from flowers in their small garden, adding the perfect touch to their homemade gowns. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. You two are the most beautiful girls at that dance, he'd told them, his voice thick with emotion. Don't let anyone tell you different. But beautiful felt relative when you were surrounded by girls whose dresses cost more than your family's monthly grocery budget. When the shoes on your feet came from a clearance rack instead of a boutique. When your jewelry was borrowed from your late mother's small collection instead of purchased specifically for the occasion. Iris touched the simple gold chain at her throat, their mother's necklace, worn by Hazel to homecoming and passed to Iris for prom. It was their most precious possession, a tangible connection to the woman who taught them to find joy in small moments and beauty in unexpected places. But surrounded by the glitter and glamour of their classmates' accessories, it felt inadequate. Remember, when we thought high school would be like the movies? Hazel whispered, watching a group of popular girls pose for photos near the stage. Their laughter sounded like wind chimes, light and musical, the kind of effortless joy that seemed to come naturally to people who'd never questioned their place in the world. Iris managed a weak smile. When we thought prom would be magical and someone would ask us to dance and we'd discover we were secretly graceful. When we thought being good people would be enough, Hazel added, her voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there at the beginning of the evening. They'd tried so hard to fit in over the years. They'd joined clubs they couldn't really afford, volunteered for activities that stretched their already limited free time, and maintained perfect grades while working part-time jobs to help with household expenses. But effort, they'd learned, couldn't bridge every gap. Kindness couldn't overcome the invisible barriers that separated them from their more privileged classmates. The DJ announced the last slow dance of the evening, and desperation began to creep into Hazel's chest. In 30 minutes, the dance would be over, and they would have spent the entire evening as observers rather than participants. They would go home with stories of decorations and music, but nothing that resembled the transformative prom experience promised by every teen movie they'd ever watched. Sebastian continued his quiet rounds, but his attention remained fixed on the twins. He'd seen this pattern before. The gradual deflation of hope, the slow realization that some dreams were meant for other people. In his 23 years at Oakmont High, he'd watched countless students navigate the brutal social hierarchies that determined who mattered and who didn't. But there was something different about these two, something in their dignified acceptance of exclusion, their refusal to become bitter despite repeated rejections, their genuine kindness toward classmates who barely acknowledged their existence. They reminded him of dancers he'd once known, people who understood that true grace came from within, that the most powerful movements were often the smallest ones, executed with perfect intention and authentic feeling. As the evening wore on, and the twins' isolation became more pronounced, Sebastian made a decision that would change everything. But first, the night had to get worse. Much worse, because sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin in the darkest moments, when hope seems lost and dignity hangs by the thinnest of threads. The cruel laughter started as a whisper across the dance floor, building like a wave, until it crashed against the twins with devastating precision. It began when Jaden Clark, Oakmont High's star quarterback and prom king, noticed Hazel and Iris still standing by the punch bowl as the evening entered its final hour. Jaden commanded attention effortlessly. At 6'3", with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that had graced the covers of both the yearbook and the local newspaper's sports section, he moved through the world with the confidence that came from never being told no. His black tuxedo was tailored to perfection. His date, homecoming queen Daisy Clark, looked like she'd stepped off a magazine cover, and his inner circle of friends followed his lead with the loyalty of disciples. "Hey, look," Jaden said too, his group, his voice carrying just loud enough to be heard over the music. "The Nelson twins are still here. Someone should probably ask them to dance before the night ends." The suggestion was delivered with the kind of mock concern that only amplified its cruelty. His friends, Harrison Baker, Owen Stewart, and Caleb Wood, exchanged glances that mixed amusement with uncomfortable recognition of what was being proposed. "Dude, that's kind of harsh," Harrison mumbled, though his protest lacked conviction. "Harsh?" Jaden's eyebrows shot up in feigned innocence. "I'm talking about charity. It's practically a public service. Look at them. They've been standing there all night like decorations. Someone needs to show them a good time." Daisy Clark giggled, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Oh my God, Jaden, you're terrible. But someone should probably do something." It's almost sad at this point. The group's attention focused on the twins, with the intensity of predators selecting prey. Hazel and Iris, still unaware of the conversation happening across the room, continued their quiet vigil by the refreshment table, occasionally commenting on the decorations or the music, maintaining the illusion that they were having a perfectly adequate time. Sebastian Walker noticed the shift in energy before anyone else. 23 years of observing teenage social dynamics had given him an almost supernatural ability to detect trouble before it erupted. He watched as Jaden's group huddled together, saw the way their eyes kept drifting toward the twins, observed the particular brand of smile that preceded calculated cruelty. He abandoned his maintenance cart and moved closer, positioning himself near the emergency exit where he could intervene if necessary. Something in his gut, the same instinct that had once helped him navigate the competitive world of professional dance, told him that the evening was about to take a dangerous turn. Jaden approached the twins with the swagger of someone performing for an audience. His friends followed at a distance, close enough to witness the spectacle, but far enough away to maintain plausible deniability. Other students began to notice the movement, conversations quieting as attention shifted toward the unfolding drama. "Hazel! Iris!" Jaden's voice boomed with artificial enthusiasm. "You two look absolutely stunning tonight. Those dresses are really something special." The twins turned toward him with surprise and cautious hope. In 4 years of high school, Jaden Clark had never spoken directly to either of them. His sudden attention felt both thrilling and suspicious, like being noticed by a celebrity who might be playing an elaborate prank. "Thank you," Hazel replied carefully, her voice barely audible over the music. "I was just telling my friends," Jaden continued, his smile growing wider, "that it's a tragedy that no one has asked you two to dance yet. I mean, what kind of gentlemen are we if we let two beautiful ladies spend prom night as wallflowers?" Sebastian's jaw clenched. He recognized the setup, had seen variations of this scene play out countless times over the decades. The false compliments, the performative concern, the way Jaden's voice carried just loud enough to attract an audience. It was a carefully orchestrated piece of social theater designed to humiliate under the guise of kindness. Iris glanced at her sister, uncertainty flickering in her dark eyes. "That's very nice of you to say," she managed. "Nice?" Jaden laughed, the sound somehow both warm and cold. "I'm not being nice. I'm being honest. "You know what? This is ridiculous. The night's almost over, and I refuse to let it end without seeing you two on that dance floor." He extended his hand toward Hazel with a flourish that belonged on a stage. "May I have this dance? And Owen," he gestured toward his friend, "I'm sure Owen would be honored to dance with Iris." Owen Stewart stepped forward reluctantly, his discomfort visible in the tension of his shoulders and the way his eyes couldn't quite meet Iris's gaze. He was complicit, but not enthusiastic, caught between loyalty to his friend and his own conscience. The gymnasium seemed to hold its breath. Students stopped their conversations mid-sentence. Couples paused their dancing, and even the DJ appeared to sense the shift in atmosphere. Every eye in the room focused on the twins, waiting to see how they would respond to this unexpected invitation. Sebastian felt his chest tighten with recognition and rage. This wasn't kindness, it was performance art with victims. But he also saw something else in that moment. An opportunity, not for Jaden's cruel entertainment, but for something the quarterback couldn't possibly have anticipated. Because Sebastian Walker carried secrets that could transform this moment of potential humiliation into something entirely different. Secrets about movement and music, about grace under pressure, about the kind of dancing that came not from lessons or practice, but from the deepest places of the human heart. The twins stood frozen, caught between hope and suspicion, unaware that their answer to Jaden's invitation would set in motion events that would change not just their lives, but the entire trajectory of their community's understanding of what it meant to truly dance. Hazel looked at Jaden's outstretched hand as if it might burst into flames. 4 years of careful observation had taught her to read the subtle cues that separated genuine kindness from calculated performance, and everything about this moment felt wrong. The way Jaden's smile didn't quite reach his eyes, the way his friends hung back with barely concealed amusement, the way conversations throughout the gymnasium had stopped, creating an unnatural silence that made her skin crawl. But it was also the only invitation to dance they'd received all evening, the only acknowledgement that they existed as anything more than background decorations in their classmates' prom memories. And despite every instinct screaming that this was a trap, part of Hazel desperately wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone had finally seen them as worthy of inclusion. Hazel began, her voice catching in her throat. "Come on," Jaden pressed, his voice taking on a slightly sharper edge beneath the false warmth. "Don't leave me hanging here. Owen's already committed to dancing with your sister. We can't back out now. That would be rude." Sebastian watched from his position near the emergency exit, his heart pounding with a rhythm he hadn't felt in 20 years. He recognized the moment with crystal clarity because he'd lived it himself decades ago, when he was 19 and naive enough to believe that talent alone could protect him from the cruelty of people who saw difference as weakness. It had been at the Manhattan Dance Academy's showcase, where Sebastian Walker, then known by his stage name, Sebastian Reese, had been invited to demonstrate a contemporary piece he'd choreographed himself. The invitation had come from Marcus Delacroix, the Academy's golden boy, who claimed he wanted to highlight diverse choreographic voices in the program. Sebastian had poured his heart into that performance, channeling years of struggle and determination into 5 minutes of movement that told the story of a working-class kid from small-town Ohio who'd discovered dance in his high school's abandoned theater. The piece was raw, honest, and unlike anything the elite academy typically showcased. The applause that followed had been polite but puzzled. Later, Sebastian overheard Marcus explaining to a group of donors that the performance had been an interesting experiment in how the other half lives, and a fascinating glimpse into what happens when street authenticity meets professional technique. The choreography Sebastian had considered his masterpiece had been presented as an anthropological curiosity, a specimen for wealthy patrons to examine and dismiss. That night had ended Sebastian's professional dance career before it truly began, not because he lacked talent, but because he'd finally understood that his authenticity was valued only as entertainment for people who would never truly accept him as an equal. Now, watching Hazel and Iris navigate the same treacherous waters, Sebastian felt 20 years of suppressed anger and protective instinct crystallize into perfect clarity. These girls possessed something that couldn't be taught or bought, the natural grace that came from navigating life's challenges with dignity intact. They moved through the world with an unconscious elegance that their more privileged classmates, for all their dance lessons and deportment classes, would never achieve. But more than that, Sebastian saw in them the same quality he'd once possessed and lost. The belief that movement could be a language of truth, that dance could be a form of authentic self-expression rather than mere performance for others' approval. You know what? Hazel said suddenly, her voice stronger than it had been all evening. Yes, I would love to dance. The decision surprised everyone, including Iris, who stared at her sister with wide eyes. But Hazel had made a calculation that went beyond social dynamics. If this was going to be humiliating, she decided, she would face it head-on rather than spend the rest of her life wondering what might have happened if she'd been brave enough to say yes. Iris, seeing her sister's courage, nodded at Owen. "I'll dance too." Jaden's grin widened, though Sebastian caught the predatory glint that flickered behind his practiced charm. "Excellent. This is going to be perfect." As the two couples moved toward the center of the dance floor, Sebastian found himself walking forward as well, abandoning any pretense of maintaining his invisible maintenance worker persona. Something in his chest was breaking open, not with pain this time, but with recognition and possibility, because he could see what no one else in that gymnasium could see. While Jaden and Owen positioned themselves with the mechanical precision of people who'd learned to dance in studios with mirrors and metronomes, Hazel and Iris moved with something infinitely more valuable: natural rhythm and unconscious grace. The way Hazel lifted her chin as she stepped onto the dance floor wasn't defiance, it was dignity. The way Iris's shoulders squared wasn't defensiveness, it was readiness. They didn't know how to ballroom dance or execute perfect footwork, but they understood something more fundamental about movement and music and the courage required to take up space in a world that had spent years trying to make them invisible. Sebastian's hands trembled as he reached into his pocket for his phone. Not to record what was about to happen, he would never violate their privacy that way, but to change the music. Because if these girls were going to dance, they deserved something better than the generic pop ballad currently playing over the sound system. His fingers found the DJ booth's Bluetooth connection, a small technical knowledge he'd gained from years of helping set up school events. With a few quick taps, he replaced the saccharine love song with something that would give Hazel and Iris the foundation they needed to show everyone in that gymnasium what real dancing looked like. The opening notes of Nina Simone's "Feeling Good" filled the air, and Sebastian watched as both twins' postures shifted subtly, their bodies responding instinctively to music that matched their souls, rather than simply providing a generic backdrop for teenage romance. And in that moment, everything changed. To rich, soulful opening of Nina Simone's "Feeling Good" rolled through the gymnasium speakers like velvet thunder, and Sebastian watched as something extraordinary happened. While Jaden and Owen stood frozen, confused by the sudden change from predictable prom music to something with actual depth and complexity, Hazel and Iris responded as if they'd been waiting their entire lives for this exact song. It wasn't conscious. They didn't look at each other or nod in agreement. Their bodies simply began to move, in response to music that spoke to experiences the popular kids couldn't understand. The weight of struggle, the beauty of resilience, the power that came from surviving in a world that didn't always welcome you with open arms. Hazel closed her eyes for just a moment, letting the bass line settle into her bones. When she opened them again, she wasn't the same girl who'd stood nervously by the punch bowl. She was someone who understood that this moment, this song, this dance floor, this opportunity was a gift that might never come again. "Do you know how to dance to this?" Jaden asked, his confidence wavering for the first time all evening. The question revealed everything about his intentions. He'd expected them to stumble through a simple, slow dance while he and his friends exchanged knowing looks. Nina Simone wasn't part of his cruel script. "I know how to feel it," Hazel replied, and without warning, she stepped away from Jaden's conventional dance position and began to move. It wasn't ballroom dancing. It wasn't the kind of choreographed routine that won high school dance competitions. It was something far more dangerous and beautiful, authentic expression set to music that demanded nothing less than truth. Hazel's movements flowed like water finding its path down a mountainside. Her arms swept in wide, graceful arcs that seemed to gather the very air around her and transform it into something visible. Her feet found the rhythm not through learned steps, but through instinct, creating patterns on the gymnasium floor that told the story of every late night she'd spent helping her father balance the family budget. Every morning she'd gotten up early to prepare breakfast for her sister. Every moment she'd chosen dignity over bitterness, despite the world's casual cruelty. Iris, watching her twin transform before her eyes, felt something unlock in her own chest. Without conscious thought, she stepped away from Owen's confused embrace and joined her sister in the center of the dance floor. Where Hazel's movements were flowing and expansive, Iris's were sharp and precise, creating counterpoint rhythms that complemented her sister's style perfectly. Together, they moved like two parts of the same soul, their homemade dresses becoming irrelevant as their natural grace took center stage. The fabric that had felt so humble earlier now caught the gymnasium lights like silk, the handmade details their father had sewn with such care, adding texture and authenticity to movements that needed no embellishment. Sebastian found himself stepping closer, his maintenance worker invisibility forgotten, as he watched these two young women discover what he'd known about them from years of quiet observation. They were dancers. Not trained dancers, not technical dancers, but the kind of natural performers who could transform any space into a stage simply by being authentically themselves. The gymnasium fell silent, except for Nina Simone's powerful voice and the whisper of fabric against fabric as the twins moved. Students who'd been engaged in their own conversations turned to watch, their expressions shifting from curiosity to surprise to something approaching awe. This wasn't the spectacle Jaden had planned. This wasn't two awkward girls fumbling through steps they'd never learned while their classmates snickered behind hands raised to hide cruel smiles. This was artistry emerging from an unexpected source, beauty that couldn't be purchased or taught, only discovered and nurtured. "What the hell is happening?" Jaden muttered to Owen, both boys now standing on the sidelines as the twins commanded the center of the dance floor with an authority that had nothing to do with social status and everything to do with authentic talent. But Sebastian knew exactly what was happening. He was watching the same phenomenon he'd experienced decades ago in a small Ohio theater, when he'd first understood that his body could be an instrument of expression. The moment when movement became language, when dance became something larger than entertainment or exercise or social ritual. As the song built toward its climax, Sebastian made a decision that would have seemed impossible an hour earlier. He walked directly onto the dance floor, his grey coveralls and maintenance worker status forgotten, and positioned himself where the twins could see him. "Let the music lift you," he called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone who understood what they were experiencing. Don't dance for them. Dance for yourself. Dance for the music. Dance because you were born to move. Hazel and Iris heard him over the music, their eyes finding his face in the crowd of watching teenagers. Something in his expression, recognition, encouragement, professional understanding, gave them permission to go deeper into the movement, to trust the instincts that were guiding their bodies through space with increasing confidence and complexity. Sebastian began to move as well, not intruding on their moment, but providing a foundation, a frame within which their natural artistry could flourish. His movements were subtle but masterful, the muscle memory of years of professional training evident in every gesture, despite the decades that had passed since he'd last danced publicly. The three of them created something unprecedented in the history of Oakmont High School proms, a moment of genuine artistic expression in a space typically reserved for shallow social performance. They danced not to impress or to fit in or to fulfill expectations, but because the music demanded nothing less than their complete authenticity. And for the first time in 20 years, Sebastian Walker remembered why he'd fallen in love with dance in the first place. The song ended, but the silence that followed was different from any quiet that had ever filled the Oakmont High gymnasium. It wasn't the uncomfortable hush of embarrassment or the expectant pause before laughter. It was the reverent stillness that follows genuine artistry, when an audience needs a moment to process what they've just witnessed. Hazel and Iris stood in the center of the dance floor, their chests rising and falling with exertion and exhilaration, their eyes bright with the kind of joy that comes from discovering a piece of yourself you never knew existed. Their father's handmade dresses clung to their bodies, damp with perspiration, but somehow more beautiful than any designer gown in the room. Then the applause began. Not the polite, obligatory clapping that typically followed prom court announcements, but something deeper and more spontaneous. It started with Margot Davies, a quiet junior who'd spent 4 years feeling invisible herself and spread through the gymnasium like ripples across still water. Even some of Jaden's usual followers found themselves clapping, though their expressions showed confusion about their own reactions. Sebastian stepped back from the dance floor, his heart pounding with emotions he'd kept buried for 2 decades. But as he began to retreat toward the shadows, Hazel's voice stopped him. "Wait!" she called out, her voice carrying over the applause. "Don't go!" The entire gymnasium turned to look at the maintenance worker who'd somehow become part of the evening's most memorable moment. Sebastian felt exposed under their collective gaze, but something in Hazel's expression, recognition, gratitude, and perhaps most importantly, understanding, kept him from disappearing back into his invisible role. "That was..." Iris began, then stopped, lacking words for what had just happened. "That was you," Sebastian said simply. "I just helped you remember what you already knew." Jaden Clark approached them, his carefully constructed prom king persona visibly cracking. His plan for casual cruelty had backfired spectacularly, transforming his intended victims into the evening's unexpected stars. "I don't understand what just happened," he said. And for the first time all evening, his confusion seemed genuine rather than performative. "They danced," Sebastian replied, his voice carrying a quiet authority that commanded attention despite his humble work clothes. "Maybe for the first time in your life, you saw what real dancing looks like." The words stung because they were true. For all his athletic coordination and social confidence, Jaden's movements on the dance floor had always been mechanical, learned responses to rhythm rather than genuine expression. Watching Hazel and Iris move with such natural grace had exposed the difference between technique and artistry in a way that couldn't be ignored or explained away. As the crowd began to disperse and return to their own conversations, Sebastian found himself standing with the twins near the edge of the dance floor. The formal portion of prom was winding down, but something new was beginning. "How did you know?" Hazel asked quietly. "How did you know we could do that?" Sebastian smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. "Same way you knew how to move to that music. Sometimes you recognize something in other people because you've carried it yourself." "You're a dancer," Iris said. "It wasn't a question." "I was," Sebastian replied, "long time ago, before I became invisible." The twins exchanged glances, processing this revelation. The quiet janitor they'd seen in the hallways for 4 years, the man who'd always nodded politely when they passed but never intruded, had been hiding a secret that connected him to the most authentic moment of their lives. "Could you—" Hazel began hesitantly, then stopped herself. "Could I what? Could you teach us, really teach us?" Sebastian felt his breath catch. The question touched the deepest wound in his heart, the part of him that had never stopped believing in the transformative power of movement, even after the professional dance world had rejected his authenticity in favor of polished performance. "I don't know if I remember how to teach," he said honestly. "You just did," Iris pointed out. "Whatever you said out there, whatever you did, it worked. We felt it." Before Sebastian could respond, Tobias Nelson appeared at the gymnasium entrance, early to pick up his daughters. He'd changed out of his work clothes into a clean button-down shirt and his best jeans, his face bright with anticipation for their stories about the evening. But when he saw the twins talking animatedly with the school janitor in the middle of the dance floor, their dresses rumpled and their hair slightly mussed, his expression shifted to concern. "Girls?" he called out, approaching cautiously. "Dad!" Hazel ran to him, her face glowing with excitement. "Dad, you'll never believe what happened. We danced, really danced." Tobias looked between his daughters and Sebastian, trying to piece together the story from their expressions and body language. "You danced?" "Mr. Walker helped us," Iris explained, gesturing towards Sebastian. "He showed us that we already knew how. We just needed permission to trust ourselves." Sebastian stepped forward, suddenly aware of how this situation might appear to a protective father. "Mr. Nelson, I hope you don't mind. Your daughters have remarkable natural ability. They just needed encouragement to let it show." Tobias studied Sebastian's face, recognizing something honest and gentle in the older man's expression. "You're the janitor." "I am, but I used to be other things too." There was a moment of assessment, father to father, as Tobias evaluated this unexpected figure in his daughters' lives. Then Hazel began talking rapidly about the music and the movement and the feeling of flying without leaving the ground. And Iris chimed in with her own observations about rhythm and grace, and the way dance could tell stories that words couldn't capture. Listening to his daughters describe their experience with vocabulary and passion he'd never heard from them before, Tobias made a decision that would change their family's trajectory forever. "Mr. Walker," he said formally, "would you be willing to continue teaching them?" Word traveled fast in a town the size of Millbrook. By Monday morning, half the school had heard some version of what happened at prom, though the stories varied, wildly depending on who was telling them. Some claimed the Nelson twins had been secretly taking dance lessons for years. Others insisted it was all staged, an elaborate prank orchestrated by someone with a grudge against Jaden Clark. A few students swore they'd seen the janitor dancing too, but those accounts were generally dismissed as exaggeration. What everyone agreed on was that something unprecedented had happened on that dance floor, and the comfortable social order of Oakmont High had been disrupted in ways that made certain people very uncomfortable. Sebastian arrived at work that morning to find Principal Margaret Foster waiting in his supply closet, her expression a careful mask of administrative concern. At 58, Principal Foster had built her career on maintaining order and avoiding controversy. The thought of a school employee becoming the subject of student gossip made her visibly nervous. "Sebastian," she began, settling into the only chair in the cramped space. "I've been hearing some interesting stories about Friday night." "I imagine you have." Sebastian continued organizing his cleaning supplies, not trusting himself to meet her eyes directly. "Some parents are concerned about boundary issues, a staff member involving himself in student activities outside his job description." Sebastian's hands stilled on a bottle of floor cleaner. "I helped 2 students who were being humiliated." "I'd do it again." "I'm sure your intentions were good," Principal Foster said carefully, "but you have to understand how this looks. A 45-year-old man inserting himself into teenage social dynamics. Even if nothing inappropriate happened, the optics are problematic." The conversation continued for 20 minutes, Principal Foster dancing around her real concerns while Sebastian grew increasingly frustrated with the implications. By the time she left, he'd been given a formal warning about maintaining appropriate boundaries and advised to limit his interactions with students to his official duties. Meanwhile, the twins faced their own challenges. Hazel's first period English. Class buzzed with whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when she entered. Students who'd never spoken to her before now stared openly, their expressions mixing curiosity with something that felt uncomfortably like suspicion. "So," said Trisha Davies, one of Daisy Clark's closest friends, as Hazel took her usual seat in the back row. "That was quite a performance Friday night." The comment was delivered with the kind of artificial sweetness that masked genuine malice. Hazel had learned to recognize the tone over 4 years of navigating Oakmont High's social hierarchies. "Thank you," Hazel replied simply, refusing to be drawn into whatever game Trisha was playing. "I mean, where did that even come from?" Trisha continued, her voice carrying just loud enough for nearby students to hear. "It's like you were completely different people, almost like you were performing for attention." The implication hung in the air like smoke, that the twins' authentic moment of artistic expression had been calculated manipulation, a desperate attempt to steal spotlight from their more deserving classmates. Iris faced similar scrutiny in her calculus class, where Owen Stewart's friends peppered her with questions that felt more like interrogations. Had she and Hazel been planning this for weeks? Were they trying to embarrass Jaden and Owen? Did they really think one dance would change their social status? The questions revealed more about the questioners than about the twins. Students who'd built their identities around exclusion and hierarchy couldn't comprehend authentic expression that didn't serve a strategic social purpose. The idea that someone might dance simply because the music moved them, without calculation or agenda, was foreign to their understanding of human motivation. By lunchtime, the twins found themselves more isolated than ever. Their usual table in the cafeteria felt exposed under the weight of stares and whispers. Students who'd ignored them for years now watched their every movement, looking for signs of change or pretension or whatever would confirm their preferred narrative about Friday night's events. "Maybe we should eat in the library," Iris suggested, picking at her sandwich without appetite. "No," Hazel said firmly, "we're not going to hide because we did something beautiful." But the pressure was taking its toll. The joy they'd felt on the dance floor was being systematically dissected and diminished by people who couldn't understand what they'd experienced. Worse, some students were beginning to frame their moment of triumph as evidence of deception, as if their natural grace had been a lie designed to fool their classmates. The situation escalated when Jaden Clark cornered them after 6th period. His usual entourage trailing behind him like loyal dogs. His prom king confidence had been damaged by Friday night's events, and he seemed determined to restore his social dominance through intimidation. "I've been thinking about Friday," he said, blocking their path to the parking lot, "and I think I figured out what really happened." "What's that?" Hazel asked, though she dreaded the answer. You set me up, both of you. You've been taking dance lessons somewhere, probably for months, and you saw an opportunity to make me look stupid. Well, congratulations. Hope it was worth it. The accusation was so far from the truth that for a moment neither twin knew how to respond. The idea that their spontaneous expression of joy had been a calculated attack on Jaden's reputation revealed everything about his character and nothing about theirs. "We've never taken dance lessons," Iris said quietly. "Right," Jaden laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. "And I suppose the janitor just magically knew how to dance too. Give me a break." Harrison Baker, standing slightly apart from the group, looked uncomfortable with the confrontation. "Dude, maybe we should just drop it. They danced. It's not like they committed a crime. They made us look like idiots," Caleb Wood chimed in, his loyalty to Jaden overriding any sense of proportion. "No," Hazel said, her voice gaining strength. "You made yourselves look like idiots. We just danced." The simplicity of the statement seemed to enrage Jaden further. He stepped closer, using his height and athletic build to intimidate. "Well, here's some advice. Whatever game you're playing, it's over. Things go back to normal now. You go back to being nobody." But as he turned to leave, Sebastian Walker appeared in the hallway behind them, pushing his maintenance cart with deliberate purpose. His presence shifted the dynamic immediately, reminding everyone that the twins were no longer unprotected. The anonymous note appeared in Sebastian's maintenance locker on a Wednesday morning, 2 weeks after prom. Written in block letters on school letterhead, it was brief and devastating. "Inappropriate relationship with students. Investigation recommended. Multiple witnesses." Sebastian stared at the paper, his hands trembling slightly as he recognized the calculated cruelty behind it. Someone had weaponized the school's legitimate concerns about staff-student boundaries and turned them into a weapon designed to destroy not just his job, but his character. He'd been expecting something like this since the hallway confrontation with Jaden, but the reality still hit him like a physical blow. In 3 sentences, someone had managed to transform his protective instincts and genuine care for 2 talented young women into something sordid and inappropriate. Principal Foster summoned him to her office within an hour, her expression grim. The meeting was different from their previous conversation, more formal, more careful, with everything documented and witnessed by the assistant principal, George Holmes. "Sebastian, we've received some concerning allegations," Principal Foster began, sliding the anonymous note across her desk. "I'm required to inform you that pending an investigation, you're being placed on administrative leave." The words hit him harder than he'd expected. Sebastian had worked at Oakmont High for 23 years without a single complaint or disciplinary action. He'd been the invisible guardian who fixed broken lockers, cleaned up after teenage chaos, and occasionally offered quiet encouragement to students who looked like they needed it. Now, because he'd helped 2 girls discover their own strength, he was being treated like a predator. "Who made the complaint?" Sebastian asked, though he suspected he already knew. "I can't reveal that information during an ongoing investigation," Principal Foster replied. "But I want you to know that this is strictly procedural. We have to take all allegations seriously." Sebastian nodded, understanding the position she was in, but feeling the injustice like acid in his throat. "How long?" 2 weeks minimum, possibly longer depending on what the investigation reveals. As Sebastian cleaned out his locker for the temporary suspension, he couldn't help but think about the twins. They'd been meeting after school in the empty gymnasium for the past week, with Principal Foster's reluctant permission and Tobias Nelson's enthusiastic support. Sebastian had been teaching them basic techniques while encouraging them to trust the natural instincts that had made their prom performance so powerful. Now those sessions would have to stop, and worse, the twins would inevitably learn about the allegations. He could imagine how the news would be delivered by their classmates, with malicious glee and carefully crafted implications designed to make them feel responsible for destroying an innocent man's career. The twins learned about Sebastian's suspension, not from official channels, but from Trisha Davies, who approached them in the hallway between classes with the fake concern that had become her signature weapon. "Oh my God, you guys," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. "Did you hear about Mr. Walker? It's so awful." Hazel felt her stomach drop. "What about him?" "He's been suspended. Someone reported him for inappropriate behavior with students." Trisha paused dramatically, letting the implication sink in. "I mean, I'm sure it's nothing serious, but you know how these things look, especially after that whole prom situation." Iris grabbed her sister's arm, steadying herself against the locker. "What do you mean, inappropriate behavior? I don't know the details," Trisha continued, clearly enjoying her role as messenger of devastating news. "But people are saying it has something to do with those after-school dance sessions you've been having. You know how rumors spread." The twins spent the rest of the day in a haze of guilt and confusion. Students who'd barely acknowledged their existence for 4 years now watched them with expressions ranging from pity to suspicion. Some seemed to believe they were victims of predatory behavior. Others clearly thought they were complicit in whatever inappropriate relationship the rumor mill had constructed. By the time they reached home, both girls were in tears. Tobias found them in the kitchen, their homework abandoned on the table while they sat in stunned silence. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, his parental instincts activated by their obvious distress. Through broken sentences and overlapping explanations, the twins told him about Sebastian's suspension and the rumors circulating through school. Tobias listened with growing anger, not at his daughters, but at the system that had twisted kindness into something ugly. "This is my fault," Hazel said through her tears. "If we hadn't asked him to teach us, if we hadn't made such a big deal about prom, none of this would have happened." "No," Tobias said firmly, "this is not your fault. This is what happens when small-minded people can't stand to see something beautiful and try to destroy it." But even as he comforted his daughters, Tobias felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on him. Should he contact Sebastian directly and risk making the situation worse? Should he demand a meeting with Principal Foster and potentially draw more attention to his family? Should he hire a lawyer, though the cost would devastate their already strained finances? That evening, Sebastian sat in his small apartment above Finnegan's hardware store, staring at a photo from his professional dance days. In the picture, he was young and confident, surrounded by other performers who'd believed that talent and authenticity would be enough to sustain their careers. Most of them had been wrong, including him. But for a brief moment on a gymnasium dance floor, he'd remembered what it felt like to believe in the transformative power of movement. He'd watched two remarkable young women discover their own strength and grace, had seen the way authentic expression could silence an entire room full of people accustomed to performative nonsense. Now that memory was being poisoned by people who couldn't distinguish between predatory behavior and genuine mentorship, the investigation would probably clear him. He'd done nothing wrong, and any objective review would confirm that. But the damage to his reputation and to the twins' sense of safety would be permanent. As he prepared for bed, Sebastian made a decision that surprised him with its clarity. He wouldn't simply wait for the investigation to run its course. He wouldn't let the twins blame themselves for the cruelty of others. And he certainly wouldn't let small-minded people destroy something beautiful without a fight. Tomorrow, he would begin fighting back in the only way that mattered, by proving that authentic expression was stronger than manufactured scandal and That truth had a power that rumors could never match. Sebastian's plan began with a single phone call to someone he hadn't spoken to in 15 years. Dr. Amara Scott had been his contemporary at the Manhattan Dance Academy, one of the few students who'd understood that dance was about more than technical perfection. While Sebastian had retreated to small-town invisibility after his professional dreams collapsed, Amara had built a career as a movement therapist, working with trauma survivors and at-risk youth in Chicago. "Sebastian Reese," she said, when she entered, her voice warm with surprised recognition. "I was wondering if you'd ever surface again." "It's Sebastian Walker now," he replied, "and I need help." He explained the situation in careful detail: the twins' natural talent, the prom performance, the subsequent allegations and suspension. Amara listened without interruption, occasionally making soft sounds of understanding or indignation. "So they're using your mentorship as a weapon against you," she summarized when he finished. "Classic institutional protection behavior. Easier to sacrifice one employee than confront systemic issues. The worst part is watching these girls blame themselves," Sebastian said. "They think their success caused my downfall." "Then we change the narrative," Amara replied, with the confidence that had made her a successful advocate for marginalized communities. "When's the investigation meeting?" "Friday afternoon." "Perfect, I'll be there." Amara arrived in Millbrook on Thursday evening, her presence immediately shifting the energy around the entire situation. At 43, she carried herself with the kind of professional authority that came from years of fighting institutional bias and winning. Her credentials were impeccable: doctorate in movement therapy, published researcher, consultant to major dance companies across the Midwest. She met with Tobias and the twins first, sitting in their modest living room while rain drummed against the windows. The twins were initially shy around this sophisticated stranger, but Amara's genuine warmth and obvious respect for Sebastian quickly put them at ease. "Sebastian told me about your prom performance," she said. "I'd love to see you dance, if you're comfortable with that." The twins exchanged glances. They hadn't danced since Sebastian's suspension, afraid that continuing would somehow make things worse for him. But something in Amara's expression, professional curiosity mixed with personal investment, made them want to show her what Sebastian had seen in them. They cleared space in the living room, and Tobias queued up Nina Simone on his phone. As the familiar opening notes filled the small space, both girls felt the same transformation that had occurred on the prom dance floor. Their bodies responded to the music with increasing confidence, their movements flowing between individual expression and synchronized harmony. Amara watched with the trained eye of someone who'd seen thousands of dancers, from Broadway professionals to inner-city teenagers discovering movement for the first time. What she observed in Hazel and Iris was rare: natural artistry combined with emotional intelligence, the kind of authentic expression that couldn't be taught but could be nurtured by the right mentor. When the song ended, Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Tobias. "Your daughters are extraordinarily gifted. What Sebastian did, recognizing their talent and encouraging its development, that's exactly what good mentors are supposed to do. But the school says," Iris began. "The school is afraid," Amara interrupted gently. "They're more concerned with avoiding scandal than supporting student achievement. It's common, but it's wrong." She spent the evening documenting the twins' story, recording video of them dancing, and conducting what she called informal assessments of their movement capabilities. By the time she left, she'd built a comprehensive case for Sebastian's mentorship being not just appropriate, but exemplary. Friday's investigation meeting took place in the school conference room with Principal Foster, Assistant Principal Holmes, and 2 school board members present. Sebastian arrived with Amara, whose professional credentials and calm demeanor immediately elevated the proceedings from administrative discipline to educational policy discussion. Dr. Scott, Principal Foster began carefully, while we appreciate your support for Mr. Walker, this investigation concerns specific allegations about inappropriate boundaries, which is exactly why I'm here, Amara replied, opening her laptop. I've spent the past day documenting what actually happened, and I'd like to share my findings. What followed was a methodical dismantling of the anonymous allegations. Amara presented video evidence of the twins' natural talent, documentation of Sebastian's appropriate mentoring techniques, and professional testimony about the difference between predatory behavior and authentic educational support. The allegation of inappropriate relationship appears to be based on the assumption that a male staff member cannot mentor female students without sexual motivation, Amara said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to challenging institutional bias. This assumption is not only wrong, it's harmful to students who benefit from cross-gender mentorship. She showed the video of Hazel and Iris dancing in their living room, their joy and natural grace evident in every movement. These young women have discovered something extraordinary about themselves, and they discovered it because Sebastian Walker recognized their potential when no one else did. That's not inappropriate. That's exactly what education is supposed to accomplish. The school board members exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the meeting had taken. What they'd expected to be a straightforward disciplinary action had become an examination of their own policies and assumptions. The anonymous nature of the complaint is also problematic, Amara continued. Anonymous allegations of misconduct should require corroborating evidence, which doesn't exist in this case. What does exist is a pattern of retaliation against students who disrupted social hierarchies and the adult who supported them. Principal Foster shifted uncomfortably. We have to take all allegations seriously. Absolutely, Amara agreed. But you also have an obligation to distinguish between legitimate concerns and weaponized complaints designed to punish unconventional success. By the time the meeting ended, the investigation had effectively collapsed. The school board members recommended that Sebastian be reinstated immediately, with a formal apology for the disruption to his employment. But more importantly, they recommended that Oakmont High develop a formal mentorship program, with Sebastian as its first official coordinator. As they left the building, Sebastian felt something he hadn't experienced in 20 years. Vindication. Not just personal vindication, but validation of everything he'd believed about the power of authentic mentorship and the importance of recognizing potential in unexpected places. Thank you, he said to Amara as they reached the parking lot. Don't thank me yet, she replied with a smile. The real work is just beginning. The Millbrook Community Center had seen better days. Built in the 1970s, with federal funding and good intentions, it had gradually deteriorated as municipal budgets tightened and community interest waned. The main hall's linoleum floors were cracked and yellowed. The mirrors along one wall were clouded with age, and the sound system consisted of a single boombox that had to be coaxed into cooperation. But to Sebastian Walker, standing in the center of that imperfect space 3 weeks after his reinstatement, it looked like paradise. It's not much, said Murphy Finnegan, the community center's volunteer coordinator and owner of the hardware store above which Sebastian lived. But it's ours for every Saturday morning and some weekday evenings if we need them. Sebastian nodded, already envisioning how the space could be transformed. The mirrors could be resilvered, the floors refinished, proper sound equipment installed. But more importantly, he could see young people filling these walls with movement and music, discovering parts of themselves they never knew existed. The Oakmont High Mentorship Program had been officially approved by the school board, with Sebastian as its founding coordinator. But Amara Scott had convinced him to think bigger than just school-based activities. "You have an opportunity to serve the entire community," she'd told him during one of their planning sessions. "Don't limit yourself to students who are already succeeding academically." The first official community dance workshop was scheduled for the following Saturday. Sebastian had posted flyers around town, at the grocery store, the library, the post office, even at Murphy's hardware store. The announcement was simple: movement and expression workshop, all ages welcome, no experience necessary, come as you are. Hazel and Iris had been his first volunteers, arriving early that Saturday morning to help set up folding chairs and test the sound system. In the weeks since Sebastian's vindication, both girls had blossomed in ways that went far beyond their dancing abilities. Their newfound confidence had translated into stronger academic performance, more assertive participation in class discussions, and a quiet leadership role among their classmates who had previously overlooked them. "Do you think anyone will actually come?" Iris asked, adjusting the boombox for the third time. "They'll come," Sebastian replied, though privately he shared her uncertainty. Millbrook wasn't the kind of community that typically embraced artistic expression. Most residents worked practical jobs, valued concrete achievements, and viewed creative pursuits as luxuries they couldn't afford. At 10 a.m. sharp, the first participant arrived, Mrs. Olive Taylor, 73 years old and walking, with a cane after her hip replacement surgery 6 months earlier. Sebastian recognized her from the grocery store, where she always greeted him politely, but had never shown any indication that she knew about his background or recent troubles. "I hope you don't mind an old lady crashing your young people's party," she said with a smile that transformed her weathered features. "This isn't a young people's party," Sebastian replied warmly. "This is for anyone who wants to move." Within the next 15 minutes, the community center began to fill with an unlikely collection of participants. Ezra Wright, the shy 16-year-old, who worked weekends at the gas station, slipped in through the back door and positioned himself as far from the mirrors as possible. Jenny Gonzalez arrived with her 8-year-old daughter Margot, both of them curious about this new offering in their small town. Harrison Baker appeared around 10:20, surprising everyone, including himself, with his presence. "I saw the flyer," Harrison explained to no one in particular, his usual confidence replaced by nervous uncertainty. "Thought I'd check it out." The most surprising arrival came at 10:30. Jaden Clark, still carrying himself with quarterback swagger, but with something different in his expression. Something that might have been humility, or at least the beginning of it. "I'm probably the last person you expected to see," he said to Sebastian, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. "I'm probably the last person you expected to learn." "Ephraim," Sebastian replied evenly. "But here we are." Sebastian began the workshop not with formal dance instruction, but with simple movement exploration. "Close your eyes," he instructed the diverse group of 15 participants. "Just listen to the music and let your body respond however feels natural. Don't worry about looking right or doing it correctly. Just move." The music he'd chosen was deliberately eclectic, a folk melody that gradually built layers of rhythm and instrumentation. As the participants began to move, Sebastian watched the same phenomenon he'd observed at prom night. The artificial barriers between people began to dissolve when they stopped thinking and started feeling. Mrs. Taylor's movements were small but graceful, her cane becoming a prop that added elegance to her gentle swaying. Ezra Wright discovered that his natural shyness translated into fluid, almost serpentine movements that complemented the music beautifully. Jenny and Margot Gonzalez moved together in synchrony, creating a touching dialogue between mother and daughter expressed through gesture and rhythm. Most remarkably, Harrison Baker began to shed the rigid posture that came with years of athletic training and social positioning. His movements became looser, more exploratory, as if he was discovering muscles and joints that had been locked in place by expectation and image management. Even Jaden Clark, the architect of so much recent cruelty, found himself moving with surprising vulnerability. His usual swagger disappeared as he focused on the music, and for perhaps the first time in his high school career, he wasn't performing for an audience. He was simply being present in his own body. Hazel and Iris moved among the group like assistants, offering gentle encouragement and occasionally demonstrating how a particular movement might be modified or expanded. Their natural teaching abilities surprised Sebastian, though perhaps they shouldn't have. Both girls had spent years caring for others, their father, their classmates, their community, and that instinct translated beautifully into movement instruction. As the workshop progressed, Sebastian introduced partner exercises that required participants to work together regardless of age, social status, or previous relationship. He watched Mrs. Taylor guide Ezra right through a simple sequence, her decades of life experience helping him discover confidence in his own movements. He observed Harrison Baker working patiently with young Margot Gonzalez, his competitive nature redirected toward helping rather than dominating. Most significantly, he saw Jaden Clark paired with Iris Bell for a mirroring exercise that required complete attention and mutual respect. As they moved together, reflecting each other's gestures with increasing precision and trust, something shifted in Jaden's understanding of what it meant to truly see another person. The workshop ended with the entire group moving together in what Sebastian called a community rhythm, a simple pattern that allowed individual expression within collective harmony. As 15 very different people moved in connected improvisation, the cracked linoleum floors and clouded mirrors seemed to fade in importance. What mattered was the energy they'd created together, the barriers they'd crossed, the humanity they'd recognized in each other. When the music finally stopped, the silence was filled with the kind of breathless satisfaction that follows authentic, shared experience. Participants looked around at each other with expressions of surprise and recognition, as if seeing their neighbors for the first time. "When's the next one?" Mrs. Taylor asked, and Sebastian felt his heart expand with possibility. "Next Saturday," he replied, "same time, same place." As participants began to leave, several approached Sebastian to share their experiences. Ezra Wright mumbled something about feeling less invisible. Jenny Gonzalez mentioned that she and Margot had been looking for an activity they could enjoy together. Harrison Baker simply nodded and said, "I'll be back." Jaden Clark was the last to leave, lingering as Sebastian and the twins cleaned up the space. Finally, he approached them with the kind of uncertainty that would have been unthinkable a month earlier. "I owe you an apology," he said to Hazel and Iris. "All of you. What I did at prom, what I tried to do, it was cruel and stupid." Hazel studied his face, looking for signs of calculation or performance. What she saw instead was something she'd never observed in Jaden Clark before: genuine remorse and the beginning of actual self-awareness. "Apology accepted," she said simply. As they locked up the community center and prepared to leave, Sebastian felt a transformation in himself as profound as anything he'd witnessed in his participants. For 20 years, he'd defined himself by what he'd lost: his professional dance career, his dreams of artistic success, his place in a world that valued authentic expression. But today had shown him something different. He hadn't lost his calling. He'd simply found a different way to fulfill it. The real transformation wasn't just happening in his students or his community. It was happening in his understanding of what it meant to be a teacher, a mentor, and a guardian of the kind of authentic expression that could change lives one movement at a time. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening in late November, 6 months after the community program had launched. Sebastian was grading papers from his new position as Oakmont High's official movement and expression coordinator when Principal Foster knocked on his classroom door. "Sebastian, there's someone on the phone for you. Says it's about a National Education Award." The caller introduced herself as Dr. Patricia Valdez from the National Foundation for Community Arts Education. Sebastian listened in growing disbelief as she explained that the Millbrook program had been nominated for the Foundation's Excellence in Rural Arts Initiative Award, one of only 12 programs selected nationwide. "We'd like to invite you and 2 program participants to present at our annual conference in Denver," Dr. Valdez continued. "The presentation would be part workshop demonstration, part case study discussion. Are you interested?" Sebastian's first instinct was to decline. The thought of presenting his work to a national audience of education professionals felt overwhelming, reminiscent of the performance anxiety that had contributed to his retreat from professional dance years earlier. But then he thought about Hazel and Iris, about Mrs. Taylor and Ezra Wright, about all the participants who had trusted him with their vulnerability and growth. "Yes," he said, "we're interested." The selection of presentation partners was easy. Hazel and Iris had become not just skilled dancers, but articulate advocates for the program's philosophy. Their ability to explain complex concepts about authentic expression and community building made them natural choices for a professional conference. The 3 weeks leading up to the Denver conference were intense. Sebastian, Hazel, and Iris spent hours refining their presentation, practicing the demonstration workshop they would lead, and preparing for questions from audience members who might not understand how a small-town program with minimal funding could achieve such significant results. Dr. Amara Scott provided coaching via video calls from Chicago, helping them anticipate the academic and professional perspectives they would encounter. "Remember," she told them during one session, "you're not just representing your program, you're representing a philosophy that prioritizes authentic human development over measurable outcomes." The conference took place at the Colorado Convention Center, a vast complex that could have contained the entire Millbrook Community Center several times over. Sebastian felt momentarily intimidated by the scale and sophistication of the event, but Hazel and Iris seemed energized by the opportunity to share their story with a broader audience. Their presentation was scheduled for the final day in the largest conference room, following sessions on grant writing, assessment methodologies, and evidence-based practice standards. As they prepared their materials, Sebastian couldn't help but notice the contrast between their grassroots approach and the polished presentations that had preceded them. "What if they think we're too simple?" Iris whispered as they waited in the wings. "Then they'll miss the point," Hazel replied with a confidence that reminded Sebastian of how much she'd grown since that night at prom. Their presentation began with a simple demonstration. Sebastian asked the audience of 200 education professionals to stand, close their eyes, and move in response to a piece of music, the same Nina Simone song that had started everything. The reaction was immediate and telling. Most participants looked around nervously, moved tentatively, or didn't move at all. "This is what we're fighting," Hazel told the audience afterward. "The belief that authentic expression is inappropriate in educational settings, that movement without predetermined outcomes is somehow wasteful or dangerous." Iris took over, describing the transformation she'd witnessed in their community. "We have participants who've been coming for 6 months, who are just now beginning to trust that they can move without judgment. Imagine if we'd started with rubrics and assessment criteria." Sebastian concluded by addressing the conference's emphasis on measurable outcomes and standardized programming. "We can measure engagement, retention, and community participation. We can document individual growth stories and track long-term educational outcomes. But the moment we start designing programs to produce specific, measurable results, we lose the authenticity that makes transformation possible." The Q&A session that followed was intense. Several audience members challenged their lack of formal assessment tools, their resistance to standardized curriculum, and their emphasis on process over product. But an equal number of participants asked detailed questions about implementation, funding strategies, and how to adapt their approach to different community contexts. The most meaningful moment came during the final question, when a middle-aged woman from rural Montana stood up and said, "I've been trying to start an arts program in my town for 3 years. Every grant application gets rejected because I can't promise specific outcomes or demonstrate evidence-based methodology. After watching your presentation, I realize I've been approaching this completely wrong. Thank you for giving me permission to start with what my community actually needs." After the conference, Sebastian, Hazel, and Iris spent an extra day in Denver, processing what they'd experienced and planning how to handle the attention their presentation had generated. Several attendees had approached them about consulting on similar programs, and Dr. Valdez had mentioned the possibility of additional funding opportunities. "It's strange," Hazel said, as they sat in a coffee shop near their hotel. 6 months ago, we were just trying to figure out if we could actually dance. Now people want us to teach them how to teach others to dance. Not how to teach dancing, Sebastian corrected gently. How to create space for authentic expression. That's different. The flight home was quiet, each of them absorbed in their own thoughts about what the conference meant for their program and their community. Sebastian found himself thinking about the conversation with Dr. Valdez, about potential expansion, about the possibility of training other communities to implement similar programs. But as their plane descended toward the regional airport that served Millbrook, Sebastian realized that his answer to those opportunities would depend entirely on what his community wanted and needed. The program had grown from the specific circumstances and relationships of their small town. Any expansion would need to honor that organic development rather than impose external expectations. The welcome home was characteristically Millbrook, understated but genuine. Murphy Finnegan picked them up at the airport and immediately started asking about practical details, what the conference center was like, whether the food was any good, if they'd had time to see any of the city. Mrs. Taylor had organized a small gathering at the community center for the following Saturday, where Sebastian, Hazel, and Iris would share highlights from their presentation with anyone interested in hearing about it. That gathering drew nearly 100 people, program participants, family members, community leaders, and curious neighbors who'd heard about the recognition but weren't quite sure what it meant. Sebastian was struck by the contrast between this informal celebration and the polished professionalism of the Denver conference. "We learned that what we're doing here matters beyond Millbrook," Hazel told the assembled group. "But we also learned that what makes it work is how connected it is to this specific place and these specific people." Iris added, "They wanted to know if our program could be replicated in other communities. We told them that the activities might transfer, but the relationships that make it meaningful, those have to be grown fresh every time." As the evening wound down and participants began to leave, Sebastian found himself standing with Tobias near the back of the room, watching Hazel and Iris demonstrate a partner exercise with some of the younger participants. "Penny for your thoughts," Tobias said. Sebastian smiled. "Just thinking about how far we've all come and wondering what comes next." "What do you think comes next?" Sebastian watched Mrs. Taylor working with Ezra Wright on a sequence they were developing for the upcoming winter showcase, saw Harrison Baker patiently helping a newcomer find confidence in her movements, observed Jaden Clark listening intently as a middle schooler described her ideas for a group piece. "I think we keep doing what we're doing," Sebastian said finally. "We keep showing up. We keep creating space for people to discover who they are, and we trust that the rest will take care of itself." 2 years had passed since that transformative night at prom, and the spring air carried the scent of possibility as it drifted through the open windows of the Millbrook Community Center. The annual spring showcase was just hours away, and the building hummed with nervous energy as participants made final preparations for what had become the most anticipated event on the town's cultural calendar. Sebastian stood in the main hall, watching the organized chaos unfold around him. Costumes were being adjusted, props positioned, and last-minute choreographic changes discussed in hushed, urgent tones. But beneath the surface excitement, he could sense something deeper, a confidence and sense of ownership that hadn't existed in the program's early days. Mrs. Olive Taylor, now 75 and moving with the aid of a walker after a minor stroke the previous winter, was directing a group of teenagers in the setup of her latest creation, a multimedia piece that combined movement, spoken word, and video projection. Her Generations project had grown from simple intergenerational partnering to a complex exploration of how wisdom passed between age groups through shared physical experience. The microphone needs to be stage right, not center, she instructed. Harrison Baker, who had returned from his first year of college specifically for this showcase. Remember, the movement tells the story first. The words are just confirmation. Harrison nodded, following her directions with the same attention he'd once brought to football playbooks. His transformation from high school quarterback to movement therapy student had been one of the program's most dramatic success stories, and his presence tonight felt like a homecoming for the entire community. In the far corner of the room, Ezra Wright worked with a group of younger participants on a piece he'd choreographed for his senior project at the State University's dance program. The shy 16-year-old who'd once hidden in shadows had evolved into a confident artist whose work was gaining recognition far beyond Millbrook's borders. His latest piece, Invisible, explored themes of social isolation and community belonging through a series of solos that gradually merged into ensemble movement. Remember, Ezra told his young dancers, you're not performing for the audience. You're inviting them to see something true about themselves. There's a difference. Sebastian smiled, recognizing his own words reflected back through Ezra's teaching. The cyclical nature of mentorship, how knowledge passed from teacher to student, and then outward to new communities, never ceased to amaze him. Near the stage, Jaden Clark was having an animated but good-natured argument with a group of middle schoolers about the ending of their collaborative piece. Jaden's journey from antagonist to advocate had been the most surprising transformation of all, not because it was dramatic, but because it had been so thoroughly genuine. He'd graduated from Oakmont High the previous year and was now studying education at the State College, planning to become a teacher himself. But more importantly, he'd learned to approach conflict as an opportunity for growth rather than a battle to be won. Okay, he said, holding up his hands in mock surrender to the passionate young artists. I hear what you're saying. What if we try it both ways during rehearsal and see which one feels more authentic? The middle schoolers exchanged glances and nodded, apparently satisfied that their voices had been heard and respected. Sebastian watched the interaction with deep satisfaction, remembering the cruel young man who had once used his social power to humiliate rather than uplift. But it was the twins who commanded the most attention as the evening approached. Hazel and Iris had returned from their first year at prestigious dance conservatories for this special showcase, bringing with them not just technical skills they'd refined in professional training, but a deeper understanding of how their small-town experiences had prepared them for success in the larger world. They moved through the preparation space like conductors of an orchestra, offering encouragement here, solving logistical problems there, and maintaining the calm focus that would ensure the evening proceeded smoothly. Their presence brought a sense of continuity to the event, a reminder that success didn't require leaving your origins behind, but rather building upon them. 5 minutes to places, Hazel announced, her voice carrying easily across the bustling room. Remember, this isn't about perfect execution, it's about honest sharing. As participants began gathering in the wings and audience members filed into their seats, Sebastian felt the familiar mix of nerves and excitement that preceded every showcase. But tonight carried additional weight. This was the final event. Before he would step back from day-to-day program leadership, transitioning to an advisory role as the community took greater ownership of what they'd built together. The decision hadn't been easy. Sebastian loved the direct involvement with participants, the daily problem-solving, the incremental progress that marked genuine growth. But Dr. Amara Scott had convinced him that the program's long-term sustainability depended on community, ownership, rather than dependence on any single individual. The greatest gift you can give your participants, she told him during one of their planning sessions, is the knowledge that they can continue this work without you. That's how movements become lasting change. Tonight's showcase would formally introduce the new leadership structure, a rotating council of community members who would share responsibility for program coordination, with Sebastian remaining available for consultation and special projects. Mrs. Taylor would oversee intergenerational programming, Harrison would handle youth outreach during school breaks, and a newly formed teen council would manage peer-to-peer mentorship. The twins had been invited to serve as honorary advisors, with their perspectives available via video calls during the academic year and in-person participation during summer breaks. Their role would evolve as their own careers developed, but the connection would remain strong. As the house lights dimmed and Sebastian took his position at the side of the stage, he reflected on how much had changed since that night at prom, when everything had seemed to be ending rather than beginning. The twins had discovered not just their ability to dance, but their capacity to lead and inspire others. He had rediscovered not just his love of movement, but his calling as an educator and community builder. The evening opened with a piece performed by the newest participants, a group of adults who had joined the program within the past 6 months. Their movements were tentative but sincere, their faces showing the concentrated focus of people discovering something new about themselves. Sebastian remembered his own first steps back onto a dance floor after decades away, the fear and excitement of trusting his body to remember what his mind had tried to forget. Mrs. Taylor's Generations piece followed, featuring partnerships between participants ranging in age from 8 to 80. The multimedia element added layers of meaning as video projections showed historical footage of the town, mixed with contemporary shots of program participants. The spoken word component featured voices from different eras, sharing memories of community, struggle, and celebration. As he watched a 12-year-old girl guide Mrs. Taylor through a complex sequence while voiceover narration shared stories of resilience across decades, Sebastian felt tears gathering at the corners of his eyes. This was what they'd been working toward all along, not just individual expression, but community storytelling that honored both continuity and change. Ezra's invisible piece created a hushed intensity in the room as young performers explored themes of isolation and connection through increasingly complex choreography. The piece began with 5 individual dancers moving in separate spaces, seemingly unaware of each other's presence. Gradually, they became conscious of the others, first through mirroring movements, then through tentative partnerships, finally, through ensemble work that celebrated both individual uniqueness and collective strength. The audience watched in rapt attention, many recognizing their own experiences of feeling unseen or disconnected, then finding community through shared vulnerability and authentic expression. Jaden's collaborative piece with the middle schoolers provided a lighter moment in the evening while still carrying meaningful content. The group had created a movement, conversation about leadership and cooperation, with different dancers representing various leadership styles through their choreographic choices. The piece was both entertaining and educational, showing how young people could explore complex social concepts through physical expression. As the evening progressed, Sebastian noticed audience members from throughout the region who had traveled specifically for this showcase. Word about the Millbrook program had spread through networks of educators, social workers, and community organizers, drawing visitors who wanted to witness what grassroots arts programming could accomplish when it prioritized authenticity over achievement. But it was the final piece that brought the evening full circle in ways Sebastian hadn't anticipated. Hazel and Iris had spent weeks secretly preparing a tribute that honored not just their own journey, but the transformation of their entire community. They'd collaborated with other participants to create a movement narrative that began with their prom night experience and traced the ripple effects through 2 years of growth and change. The piece opened with the twins recreating their first tentative movements to Nina Simone's Feeling Good, but now their confidence and technical skill were evident in every gesture. As the music continued, other participants joined them on stage, each representing a different aspect of the program's impact on the community. Mrs. Taylor moved with dignity and grace, representing the wisdom of experience. Ezra's fluid movements embodied artistic growth and self-discovery. Harrison's strength and gentleness showed how leadership could be redefined through service. Even Jaden appeared, his movements expressing humility and redemption. But the most powerful moment came when Tobias Nelson walked onto the stage. The twins' father had never been a formal participant in the program, but he had been its steadfast supporter, attending every showcase and providing behind-the-scenes assistance whenever needed. Tonight, he joined his daughters in a simple sequence that spoke to the love and sacrifice that had made their transformation possible. As father and daughters moved together, Sebastian felt the full weight of what they'd accomplished together. This wasn't just about dance or arts education or community programming. It was about what happened when people chose to see potential where others saw problems, when they invested time and attention in nurturing growth rather than maintaining barriers. The music swelled to its conclusion, and the final tableau included every participant who had contributed to the evening's performances. Young and old, experienced and beginner, they stood together in a formation that suggested both individual strength and collective support. The applause that followed was thunderous and sustained, but Sebastian noticed that many audience members were also standing, some wiping away tears, others simply holding the silence that follows profound shared experience. As participants took their bows and the audience began to filter out into the spring evening, Sebastian found himself surrounded by people wanting to share their responses to what they'd witnessed. Visitors from other communities asked detailed questions about program structure and funding. Local residents expressed gratitude for what had become a defining feature of their town's identity. Participants glowed with the satisfaction of sharing their growth with a supportive audience, but it was Dr. Amara Scott's response that touched him most deeply. She had driven from Chicago specifically for this showcase, bringing with her a film crew that was documenting community-based arts programs for a national education foundation. "Sebastian," she said, pulling him aside as the crowd began to thin, "I've been studying programs like this for 15 years. I've seen innovative curricula, impressive facilities, significant funding, famous guest artists, but I've never seen anything quite like what you've built here." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "You've created something that most programs aspire to but rarely achieve, a genuine learning community where growth is measured not by external standards, but by internal transformation. And you've done it in a way that's sustainable because it belongs to the participants themselves." As the evening wound down and the last audience members departed, Sebastian helped with the cleanup process that had become as much a ritual as the performance itself, folding chairs, coiling cables, sweeping floors, the mundane tasks that grounded artistic transcendence in practical reality. The twins approached him as he finished stacking the last of the equipment. They looked tired but radiant, glowing with the satisfaction of sharing their growth with a community that had supported them from their first tentative steps. "Thank you," Hazel said simply, "for seeing something in us that we couldn't see in ourselves. For teaching us that our voices mattered," Iris added. Sebastian shook his head gently. "I didn't teach you that. I just created space for you to discover it yourselves. There's a difference." As they prepared to leave the community center, Sebastian took one last look around the space that had become so central to their collective transformation. Tomorrow the room would return to its mundane functions: community meetings, birthday parties, municipal events. But for a few hours each week, it would continue to serve as a sanctuary for authentic expression and genuine community. Building. The program would continue, would evolve, would face new challenges and celebrate new successes. Other communities would adapt their model to local needs and circumstances. The twins would pursue their own paths while remaining connected to the foundation that had launched their journey. But tonight, as Sebastian walked home through the quiet streets of Millbrook, he carried with him the satisfaction of work well done and relationships well built. The scared, isolated man who had hidden his talents behind a maintenance worker's uniform had rediscovered his purpose through the courage of two young women who had refused to accept that their voices didn't matter. In the end, that might be the most powerful transformation of all, the recognition that healing others often requires healing ourselves, and that the greatest teachers are those who never stop learning from their students. The documentary, Small Town, Big Movement, The Millbrook Story, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival on a snowy January evening, 5 years after that transformative prom night. Sebastian watched from the back row as the 47-minute film captured what had taken years to build, a story of transformation that started with cruelty and bloomed into something beautiful. The audience watched Mrs. Olive Taylor, now 78, leading movement sessions with refugee families who had recently settled in the area. Her Generations project had evolved into a formal resettlement support program, using movement to bridge language barriers and cultural differences. The film showed her working with a young Afghan girl whose trauma had left her virtually mute, demonstrating how gentle movement exercises gradually helped the youngster find ways to communicate and begin healing. Ezra Wright appeared as the artistic director of a touring company he'd founded after college, bringing movement workshops to rural communities across the Midwest. His Invisible piece had become a signature work, adapted by young people in dozens of towns where feeling unseen was common. The documentary captured his confidence and artistic maturity, his essential kindness unchanged. Harrison Baker was shown working as a licensed movement therapist with veterans experiencing PTSD. His approach combined his athletic background with movement therapy training, helping former soldiers rediscover trust in their bodies after trauma. He described how his own transformation from aggressor to healer had taught him that everyone carried the capacity for change. Most remarkably, Jaden Clark appeared as Millbrook's newly appointed school superintendent, the youngest ever to hold the position. His interview revealed a thoughtful leader whose approach prioritized emotional intelligence and authentic expression over test scores. His first major initiative had been expanding movement-based learning across all grade levels. Real leadership isn't about commanding from the front, Jaden told the camera. It's about creating conditions where everyone can discover their own strength. Everything I know about that, I learned from watching Sebastian work. The twins appeared throughout the documentary, tracing their journey from community programs to principal roles with nationally recognized dance companies. But the film's most powerful moments showed them returning to Millbrook each summer to co-direct the youth intensive program that had grown from their original mentorship. Hazel had become the curriculum coordinator, developing movement-based exercises that help teenagers navigate social anxiety and peer pressure. Iris focused on community outreach, establishing satellite programs in neighboring towns and training local facilitators in Sebastian's methods. What we experienced wasn't unique to us, Iris explained in her interview. Every community has people who feel unseen, unheard, unvalued. But every community also has the capacity to create spaces where those feelings can be transformed. The documentary's climax followed the 5th anniversary celebration, which had grown from a simple showcase to a 3-day festival drawing participants from across the country. Sebastian appeared throughout not as the central figure, but as a quiet presence enabling others to shine. His transition from program leader to elder advisor was complete. The film's final sequence showed Sebastian and Tobias Nelson on the hardware store porch, reflecting on how their lives had changed since their daughters first asked Sebastian to teach them to dance. "Sometimes I think about that anonymous letter," Tobias mused, referring to the complaint that had nearly destroyed Sebastian's career. Whoever wrote it probably thought they were protecting the community from something dangerous. They had no idea they were actually protecting something precious. Sebastian nodded. "Fear makes people do cruel things sometimes, but it also makes beautiful things possible if you're willing to face it honestly." The documentary ended with footage from the current spring showcase, showing participants ranging from 5 to 85 moving together in Sebastian's signature community rhythm exercise. The camera pulled back to reveal an audience that now included visitors from dozens of communities where similar programs had taken root. As the credits rolled and the Sundance audience erupted in applause, Sebastian slipped out into the Utah mountain air. His phone buzzed with a text from Hazel. "Watching the live stream from our dressing room. Dad and I are crying, thank you for everything." Sebastian smiled, typing back, "Thank you for teaching me that the best teachers are always learning from their students." Walking through the festival crowds, Sebastian reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What started as cruelty at a high school prom had become a movement touching lives across the country. Not through grand plans, but because people chose to believe everyone deserved to be seen and valued. The story was far from over. In community centers and gymnasiums, church basements and libraries, people were gathering to move together, to discover parts of themselves they'd never known existed, to build connections that transcended society's barriers. Somewhere in small-town America, another quiet observer might be watching young people struggle to find their place, carrying secrets about authentic expression that could change everything if they found courage to share them. Because the most powerful stories never really end. They inspire new chapters in different places, with different people, moving toward the same truth. Everyone has something beautiful to offer the world, and everyone deserves the chance to discover what that might be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.